The morning after the chaotic, tragic assault on Priestella brings no sense of peace, only exhaustion, tension, and the lingering sting of loss. Subaru stands in the broken plaza with Julius and Ferris, surrounded by ruins, cracked tiles, and the faint smell of smoke and blood still drifting in the air. Although the city has been defended, the damage and impact of the witch cult's coordinated attack are undeniable. People wander in shock, searching for loved ones or recovering in makeshift shelters. What should be a scene of relief feels instead like the aftermath of warfare. Subaru's face is pale, his eyes carrying a heaviness unusual for him. His heart is weighed down by something more personal than the general destruction: the disappearance of Emilia. She vanished during the explosion that destroyed the first Watergate's area. Despite countless searches and desperate attempts to track her with help from others, no trace of her has been found, not even a fragment of clothing or magical residue. Subaru tries to hold himself together, convincing himself she must be alive, that she must be somewhere waiting. But the uncertainty gnaws at him with every passing hour. Ferris and Julius stand at Subaru's side, both of them worn from the extended fights and rescue operations. Julius tries to speak gently, urging Subaru not to overwork himself. But Subaru refuses to rest until Emilia is found. His exhaustion is clear, his voice cracks, his shoulders tremble, his usual energetic resolve muted by fear. Even so, he forces himself forward, claiming that sitting still would only tear his mind apart. While the search for Emilia continues, another troubling issue rises. The city's residents begin whispering about an unexpected sight. Maylee, the young girl capable of controlling dangerous beasts, has been seen near the underground water tunnel area. The moment Subaru hears her name, he stiffens. Maylee's presence almost always means a dangerous creature is nearby, and considering Priestella's fragile state, another attack would be catastrophic. He immediately insists they go investigate. Subaru, Julius, and Ferris travel through the half-collapsed structure leading into the underground area. The pathways are slippery with floodwater, patched hastily with wooden boards and rope to prevent additional collapses. Julius assists Subaru when he nearly falls, but Subaru pulls away in frustration. Every moment he spends here searching for answers feels like a moment wasted not finding Emilia. As they continue deeper, the tunnels grow darker and colder. The sound of rushing water echoes ominously. When they finally reach a wider chamber, they find Maylee herself sitting casually with her legs swinging, as though this weren't the aftermath of mass destruction. Subaru marches forward angrily, demanding to know what she's doing here. Maylee responds with calm bluntness. She is waiting for her sister, and she is not the enemy today. She says she helped the city in her own way, keeping certain beasts from joining the cult's attack. Subaru doesn't trust her, but Julius warns him that arguing with Maylee won't lead anywhere. There are more important matters to address. They need to confirm whether dangerous beasts are still lurking. When asked directly, Maylee reveals a terrifying truth. The immense creature known as the Black Serpent is nearby. The name freezes everyone. The Black Serpent, one of the three great demonic beasts, a monster feared across multiple nations for its poison that corrupts anything it touches. A creature believed impossible to kill. Its presence would mean a disaster even worse than the witch cult's attack. Subaru's heart pounds painfully. The timing is too terrible to ignore. If the Black Serpent is loose within the already collapsing city, they will be facing something far beyond the destruction they've just endured. Julius moves closer, his tone controlled but stern, asking how close the creature is. Maylee casually points deeper underground, saying it's near enough to smell. Ferris's face drains of color. Subaru, who had already been on edge from Emilia's disappearance, feels dread coil around his throat. He asks Maylee what she intends to do and why she didn't warn them earlier. Maylee shrugs, claiming she didn't owe anyone a warning, but she wanted to avoid the Black Serpent harming people she likes. Her logic is unnerving, but her words confirm something terrible. The threat is real. Before they can plan their next move, they hear the ground tremble, a long, slow rumbling, like something heavy scraping the earth. The water surface ripples, the air thickens with poisonous miasma. "It's close!" Julius pulls Subaru backwards just as a huge shadow approaches the tunnel's edge. They can't see the creature directly, not yet, but the unmistakable stench of poison floods the air, enough to make Ferris gag and force everyone to cover their mouth. The black serpent's presence is overwhelming. Even without seeing its form, the danger is obvious. Subaru feels ice run through his spine. They are not ready, not mentally, not physically, not magically, to face a great beast. Mei Li jumps down lightly and smiles. "I'll take care of this one. You can't beat it." Subaru shouts at her. What does she mean? Is she planning to fight it alone? Mei Li looks back over her shoulder and tells him that if they die here, Emilia will stay lost forever. Subaru freezes at the mention of Emilia's name. Mei Li tells the group that their job is simple. Find Emilia. Her job is to keep the black serpent away? Subaru clenches his fists. He wants to help, wants to fight, wants to ensure Mei Li doesn't die. But Julius pulls him back and reminds him they are in no condition to fight something immortal. And Emilia is the priority. Subaru's chest tightens. He whispers Emilia's name again. And reluctantly, they retreat, leaving Mei Li behind with the black serpent. Subaru and the others retreat from the underground chamber with heavy steps, each one feeling like it drags guilt behind it. The poisonous miasma still clings to their clothes as they hurry upward into safer tunnels. Julius keeps glancing over his shoulder, his jaw tight. He knows the black serpent's presence means catastrophe, yet they have no choice but to leave Mei Li. Ferris's face is twisted with conflict. Abandoning someone, even someone morally ambiguous like Mei Li, goes against their principles as a healer and a warrior. Subaru says nothing for several minutes. His fists remain clenched, and the echoes of Mei Li's words, "Go find Emilia," ring loudly in the cavern until the sound is almost unbearable. When they emerge back into the damaged city, sunlight hits them harshly through the broken rooftops. The fresh air is a relief after the suffocating tunnels. But Subaru stumbles the moment he breathes it in. The emotional strain of Emilia's disappearance and the shock from the black serpent encounter weigh him down more than any injury. Julius catches him quickly, steadying him without comment. Subaru mutters that he's fine, though no one believes him. Back at the plaza, the atmosphere is grim. Rescue teams continue clearing rubble. Civilians sit in clusters, receiving food or water from volunteers. Injured soldiers rest in makeshift tents. The entire place looks like a city barely surviving a siege. When Subaru returns, Wilhelm approaches them, his face sharp with concern. He asks if they were able to confirm the cause of the underground tremors. Subaru gives a short, heavy answer. The black serpent. Wilhelm's eyes widen, and he instantly orders the surrounding knights to prepare for possible beast contamination. Even with his old wounds aching, Wilhelm's readiness to act never dims. But Subaru's mind isn't on the beast anymore. His voice cracks as he asks Wilhelm if Emilia has been found. The silence that follows slices deeper than any blade. Wilhelm regrets having no answer. The lack of news means she is not among the casualties, but also not among the rescued. Subaru forces himself to breathe. No body means hope. That's what he repeats internally, over and over. Anastasia soon arrives at the plaza, accompanied by her entourage. Her normally cheerful tone is replaced by exhaustion and irritation, though she maintains composure better than most. She gives them new information. A huge disturbance of mana had been detected around the time Emilia disappeared. The shockwave pattern lined up with the explosion near the first water gate. Subaru's heart leaps in fear. Did she get caught in it? But Anastasia shakes her head. She believes Emilia wasn't destroyed. Rather, she may have been transported somewhere due to the unstable magical convergence. Subaru grabs onto that idea immediately. It's something to hold on to. Julius and Ferris exchange glances. Teleportation-like abnormalities often involve unusual magic or interference. If Emilia was pulled somewhere, it means she's alive, but also likely isolated. Before they can discuss further, a group of panicked guards rushes into the plaza, shouting that the remaining witch cult forces have scattered into different districts. They warn that several cultists are still armed, cornered, and desperate. Priestella is not fully secure yet. With weakened defenses, the city could still fall into chaos. Subaru takes a step forward as if ready to help, but his legs buckle. Ferris immediately forces him to sit. Even Julius insists that Subaru cannot take part in combat or rescue efforts in his state. Subaru wants to scream, but he knows they're right. He can barely hold his own weight, and searching for Emilia remains more important than anything else. Then another crisis arrives. A messenger from the city guard reports a chilling discovery. Capella, the Archbishop of Lust, had been sighted again. Despite the injuries she sustained earlier, she escaped capture and is still active within the city. Her ability to transform bodies remains a deadly threat. She has reportedly taken control of a building filled with survivors, using them as bargaining tools. If left unchecked, she could massacre dozens. Julius's face stiffens. Ferris's ears twitch with anxiety. Subaru feels his mind spiral, another enemy, another danger, when they are already stretched to their limits. He demands to know why they can't deal with her immediately. But Wilhelm steps forward and stops him with a firm hand. The older swordsman explains that going in blind and exhausted will only end in tragedy. They need strategy, coordination, and rest before facing someone as twisted as Capella again. Subaru's frustration boils over. He hates feeling helpless. He hates that Emilia is missing while monsters continue roaming the city. He hates that the witch cult refuses to die, even after their leaders fall. His chest tightens until his breathing becomes unsteady. Ferris quickly moves to calm him, reminding him that his mental collapse will help no one. Not Emilia. Not the people of Priestella. Just as Subaru tries to regain control, Anastasia gives him a calming but firm message. If you want to save someone, you need to be able to stand first. Even heroes collapse when they forget that. Her words sting, but they reach him. Still, before Subaru can rest, another unexpected message arrives. Someone wants to speak with him. Someone claiming they know where Emilia is. Subaru's breath catches. His heart pounds. He demands instantly, almost violently, "Who?" The messenger hesitates, then answers. "The person waiting for you is Echidna." Ferris gasps, Julius freezes, and Wilhelm's expression turns sharply guarded. Subaru feels the world tilt. Echidna, the witch of greed, should be long gone from this world. Yet someone using that name has asked for him. Subaru knows one thing for certain. If anyone could interfere with teleportation, with space, with souls, it would be someone connected to Echidna. He forces himself to stand, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. If there's even the slightest chance, he'll take it. Subaru felt his pulse hammering in his ears. The plaza, the noise, even his injuries faded into the background when that single name reached him. Echidna. Not the Echidna of the witch's tea party, not the one he had spoken with in the sanctuary's trials, but someone calling themselves Echidna Herod in Priestella amidst chaos and destruction. It was impossible. It made no sense. Yet impossibilities had followed Subaru since the day he arrived in this world, and now impossibility was the only lead he had to find Emilia. Ferris grabbed Subaru's sleeve with a worried expression. "Subaru, you can't seriously be considering going to meet her? What if it's a trap? What if it's lust impersonating someone again?" Julius nodded sharply. "We can't overlook the possibility. Capella's transformations, her disguises, are limitless. She could be masquerading as anyone, even a witch." But Subaru's eyes were already fixed forward. "If there's even a 1% chance it's real, then I'm going. She said she knows where Emilia is. I can't ignore that." Wilhelm rested a firm hand on his shoulder. "Then I shall accompany you." Subaru shook his head. "No, if this really is related to the witches, it should just be me. And maybe someone connected to the greed domain." Julius understood immediately. Anastasia. Indeed, they found her waiting under the shade of a broken archway. The fox-eared, polite young merchant who once claimed the title of royal candidate was seated calmly, legs crossed neatly, drinking tea as though the city around her wasn't half collapsed. But it wasn't the girl's presence that made Subaru tense. It was the aura, the stillness, the sharpness, the unnatural composure. Anastasia offered him a gentle smile. You came sooner than I expected, Natsuki-kun. Subaru swallowed. Who? Are you really? She tilted her head innocently. This appearance? Anastasia, of course. But them talking with you right now? I'm Echidna. It wasn't a bluff. It wasn't a trick. Subaru recognized the cadence of her speech, the way she carried knowledge with shameless pride. It was the same awareness he'd seen in the witch's dreams, the same disarming sweetness hiding something immeasurable beneath it. Ferris instinctively stepped between Subaru and her. How did you get here? The sanctuary's trials should have... Echidna and Anastasia shook her head calmly. I'm not that Echidna. I'm not the one from your fond little tea parties. She winked playfully, sending cold shivers through Subaru. I'm the other one. Julius's face tightened. Another Echidna? She nodded. The Witch of Greed wasn't the only one with that name. Her smile turned sharper. There exists a spirit whose name is also Echidna. Subaru stared blankly. A spirit? Like Puck? Yes. Quite clever, she praised. I am a spirit who entered a contract with Anastasia Hoshin. And right now, the girl herself is asleep within me, peaceful as can be. Ferris bristled. That ain't peaceful. You're possessing her. Borrowing, Echidna corrected sweetly. And only because Anastasia asked me to. She wanted my help navigating this dangerous city. Subaru didn't have time to argue ethics. Where is Emilia? Echidna's playful demeanor softened, her expression sharpening with sincerity. You're frantic. I can understand it. After all, your dear Emilia-sama was teleported. Subaru's heart stopped. Teleported? Where? Is she alive? Did someone take her? Who? Calm down, Echidna said gently. She is alive. I would not lie about that. The explosion at the Watergate wasn't normal. It was an overlapping magical phenomenon, destabilized by the witch cult's interference. Emilia was caught at the exact point of convergence. Then where did she go? Subaru demanded, breath trembling. Echidna's smile matured into something eerily motherly. Into the dragon's belly. Subaru froze. What? Julius and Ferris exchanged horrified glances. Echidna continued, unbothered. This city was built atop an enormous labyrinth of waterways, gates, and ancient magic. When a wide-scale explosion interacts with unstable teleportation magic, unpredictable spatial distortion occurs. Emilia was pulled into a sealed area beneath the city, one that predates Priestella's founding. Ferris's ears quivered. A sealed area? Echidna nodded. A forgotten chamber, one that contains something that's been sleeping for generations. Subaru's hands trembled. Is she trapped? Is she hurt? Alive, Echidna repeated calmly, but the distortion left her isolated. She may not understand what happened or how to escape, and she is not alone in that chamber. What else is down there? Julius asked quietly. Echidna's eyes gleamed. Something ancient, something tied to the history of the Water City, something that should not wake. Subaru's blood turned cold. Take me to her, he demanded. Echidna raised a brow. It's not so simple. The path is sealed under layers of collapsed infrastructure, and accessing it risks destabilizing what remains of the city. I don't care, Subaru said. We're going. Echidna smirked softly, as though she'd been waiting for that exact response. Then you'll need help, more than these two can give you. You'll need someone fiercely loyal, and someone who understands ancient structures. Subaru blinked. Who? Echidna snapped her fingers. A figure stepped into view. A small figure, a familiar figure. Biko, Subaru breathed. Beatrice stood with arms crossed, face serious, ribbons slightly singed from the city's chaos. I told you, Subaru, don't cause trouble when Betty isn't watching. Subaru surged forward, nearly collapsing onto her. She huffed, cheeks flushing pink. Honestly, you're helpless without Betty, I suppose. He sobbed a relieved laugh. Beatrice was here, and she was ready to help find Emilia. Echidna smiled knowingly. We begin at sunset. Subaru couldn't stop staring at Beatrice. After everything, the collapse of the first Watergate, the battles with the witch cult, Emilia's disappearance, seeing her little twin drill familiar again made a knot in his chest loosen. She stood with her arms folded, chin tilted proudly. But he didn't miss how her eyes softened when she saw how exhausted he had become. "Betty," Subaru whispered, voice trembling despite himself. She puffed, trying to resist the pull of emotion. "You look awful, I suppose. It's disgraceful to see my Subaru in such a state." He laughed weakly and wiped his eyes. "Sorry to disappoint, Princess Drill." Ferris whispered to Julius, "Subaru ain't even shy around her anymore." Julius replied softly, "Love changes people." But Beatrice stepped forward before Subaru could answer, glaring at him with an intensity that wasn't irritation, more like fear turned into anger. "Don't you dare disappear like that again, in fact. Betty has enough on her plate without worrying that the one she contracted with will go drown himself in the city." Subaru raised his hands defensively. "I didn't drown on purpose." "Not reassuring," Beatrice snapped, cheeks pink. "You're supposed to stay alive, I suppose." Her voice quivered at the last part. Subaru's heart clenched. He knelt slowly so they were eye level. "I'm sorry, really, but you're here now, and I'm glad." Beatrice looked away sharply and sniffed. "Well, as long as you understand your mistake." Echidna, still in Anastasia's body, watched the reunion with mild amusement. "Touching. Now that the emotional part is over, we can get to business, HM." Subaru's expression hardened. "Tell me how we find Emilia." Echidna folded her hands in her lap, almost like a noblewoman giving a lecture. "It starts with the history of Priestella," Beatrice groaned. "Ugh, she's going to monologue." "Oh, hush," Echidna smirked. "History is important." She explained that long before Priestella became a thriving city of waterways, the land was home to an ancient magical experiment meant to harness the water dragon's power. The foundation beneath the first Watergate was once used to store and study magical life forms. Most records of this vanished with time, but something left from those experiments still sleeps below, a creature bound by old spells. Beatrice crossed her arms. "So that's why the teleportation happened, I suppose. The magical density near the gate was unstable." Echidna nodded. "Correct. The explosion was merely the trigger. Emilia was pulled toward the strongest magical core in the area. She's safe for now," she emphasized, seeing Subaru's face tighten with panic. "But she is in the presence of something ancient, something that may not be friendly." Subaru felt a spike of fear. "Then let's leave right now. We don't have time." Echidna raised a hand. "Hold your horses. You can't barge in. The underground layouts changed after the collapse. Tunnels are blocked, flooded, or unstable, and the magical interference below would crush you if you go without preparation." "Then what do we need?" Subaru demanded. Beatrice stepped forward decisively. "We'll need someone with knowledge of old Priestella magic. Someone who handled maintenance of the water gates. Someone like Liliana's overseer for the ancient waterways, Chisha Gold." Julius nodded, but Chisha fled during the witch cult attack. "Then we find him, I suppose," Beatrice declared. Ferris frowned deeply. "Hold up. You want us to track down some slippery old man who escaped into that city while we're already dealing with cult remnants, flood damage, and a great beast? Y'all are insane." Echidna lifted a brow. "Chisha is the only one who knows the original sealing mechanisms under the first Watergate. Even I cannot navigate those ancient areas without his knowledge." Subaru clenched his fists. "Fine. We find Chisha, then we go down there and get Emilia. No matter what." Julius placed a hand on Subaru's shoulder. "We will help you, but you mustn't rush blindly. Emilia would want you to come for her. Safely." Subaru nodded shakily. Beatrice flicked her hair. "Betty will protect you. That's our contract. You're not doing this alone." The determination in her voice gave Subaru strength. Echidna stood and dusted off Anastasia's clothes. "Then I'll guide you. Call it compensation for intriguing me." Her smile was unsettling. "Saving Emilia is in your best interest and in mine." Ferris crossed their arms. "And what exactly do you gain from helping Subaru?" Echidna smiled sweetly. Entertainment, knowledge, observation. The usual. Julius murmured, I'll never get used to this. With the plan set, they divided responsibilities. Julius and Ferris would gather intelligence on Shisha's last known location. Wilhelm and Ricardo's teams would stabilize the surrounding streets so they wouldn't collapse during the descent. Beatrice would analyze the magical distortion echoing beneath the ground, mapping a route. Echidna would supervise using Anastasia's memories of the city. Subaru stared toward the broken first water gate. He remembered the blast, the water. Emilia's scream before she vanished. He whispered, Emilia, wait for me. Beatrice tugged his sleeve gently. She will, so don't lose hope, I suppose. Subaru exhaled shakily. Hope's the only thing keeping me standing. Ferris cut in suddenly, pointing at Subaru's trembling legs. Then you better eat something. If you go chasing Emilia like this, y'all faint before finding 2 steps of tunnel. Subaru sighed in defeat. Fine. Feed me. Beatrice rolled her eyes. Honestly, such a troublesome human. But she smiled. The group spent the next hour preparing for the search. By the time the sun began setting across the ruined waterways, Subaru felt steadier. Not physically, but mentally. He had a path. He had allies. He had Beatrice. And Emilia was waiting. Somewhere in the darkness beneath Priestella. And Subaru would reach her, no matter how deep. The sun lowered behind the damaged rooftops of Priestella, bathing the wrecked waterways in shades of deep gold and copper. The air cooled, and the sound of hammering and shouting from repair teams gradually faded as workers switched shifts. The city had not known rest since the witch cult's assault began, yet a fragile sense of order had begun to form. Paths cleared, shelters expanded, water redirected. Still, the ruins felt tense. Every shadow held the memory of screams. Every gust of wind hummed with danger, not yet resolved. Subaru stood at the water's edge, feeling the faint ripples wash over his boots. The first water gate loomed in the distance, its once majestic structure partially collapsed, its supporting towers fractured like broken bones jutting from the earth. Somewhere beneath that ruin, Emilia was waiting. He didn't know if she was scared, injured, or simply waiting in confusion for someone to reach her. The uncertainty gnawed at him relentlessly. Beatrice held Subaru's hand, firm, steady, her presence grounding him. Calm your heart, I suppose, she murmured. If you lose control before you even begin, you won't be able to help her. Subaru nodded, swallowing hard. Right, I know. Emilia's down there, and every second feels too long. Beatrice's gaze softened. And that's why Betty is here. We'll reach her, together. Behind them, Julius approached holding a stack of maps and crinkled parchment sheets recovered from Priestella's archives. His expression was one of focused determination, despite the fatigue tugging at the edges of his posture. We've narrowed down Shisha Gold's likely location, he reported. Several witnesses saw an elderly man resembling him near the eastern collapse sector. If he's hiding, he may have found shelter in one of the unused supply tunnels. Yeah, Ferris nodded, their tail flicking. And according to this list, only one of those tunnels is stable enough for someone to survive in without magic support. If we're quick, we can reach it before it floods again. Echidna, still wearing Anastasia's form like a well-tailored coat, leaned casually against a broken fence, sipping tea that someone definitely didn't give her permission to take. Well, Tilda, then it seems all the pieces are aligning. Better move quickly. Emilia won't stay peacefully alone forever. Subaru glared. Don't say it like she's some experiment. Echidna smiled sweetly. Oh, but she is quite fascinating. Julius cleared his throat before Subaru could snap. Echidna, please refrain from provoking him. Provoking? Me? She asked with mock innocence. I would never. Ferris whispered to Beatrice. Why do all the greed types talk like that? Beatrice sighed heavily. A personality flaw, I suppose. Despite the tension, Subaru found himself steadying. These people, his allies, his friends, they were here for him, for Emilia, and that gave him strength he didn't believe he had left. The group traveled quickly to the eastern sector. The streets were quieter here, shadows longer, water deeper in places where repairs hadn't reached. Lanterns flickered weakly. The stone walls bore claw marks, scorch lines, even dried blood, a reminder of how vicious the cult's attack had been. When they reached the mouth of the supply tunnels, the smell of damp earth and dust hit them immediately. An unstable structure, at best, the tunnel was reinforced with old beams, many cracked or bent. Julius immediately stepped forward, his wind spirits swirling to assess air pressure. It's stable enough, he concluded, but once we're inside, we cannot cause disturbances. Subaru nodded. Let's go. Beatrice led with her hand extended, scanning the magical traces in the air. The passage sloped downward, cool and narrow. The deeper they went, the more Subaru's nerves rose. Every drip of water sounded like a threat. Every scurrying noise echoed like approaching footsteps. It didn't take long before they found signs of someone living inside. Footprints in the dust, dried lantern drips, a half-eaten ration pack. Beatrice murmured, "Someone is close. Very close." Ferris raised a torch. "Chisha Gold, if you're here, we need to talk. We ain't here to hurt ya." A scraping sound echoed from deeper within. Subaru instinctively stepped in front of Beatrice, as though she needed his protection, which she clearly didn't. Echidna gave a quiet chuckle. Julius lifted his lantern. "Show yourself. We are here for Emilia Sama's sake." For a moment, silence filled the space. Then a voice, tired and resigned, echoed faintly, "I knew you'd come eventually." A lanky, aging man stepped out of the shadows, his beard unkempt, his clothes stained with dust and water. His expression was wary yet intelligent, as though constantly calculating something. Chisha Gold, former supervisor of Priestella's waterways, and a man who seemed always one step from vanishing. Subaru stepped forward quickly. You know the underground systems, right? You know how to reach the sealed area under the first water gate?" Chisha raised an eyebrow. "Straight to business, I see. You must be Natsuki Subaru, the one who ruined Capella's schemes, defeated one of the archbishops, and apparently forces this city to move according to his will." He chuckled without humor. "Troublesome reputation." Subaru clenched his fists. "I don't care what you think about me. Emilia is trapped down there. Tell us how to reach her." Beatrice stepped beside Subaru. "If you refuse to help, Betty will force the information out, I suppose." Chisha scratched his neck as though considering. "You're all so intense." "But I expected it." He sighed deeply. "The sealed chamber beneath the first water gate. Yes, I know how to reach it. No one should, but I do." Subaru's eyes widened. "Then tell us." Chisha shook his head. "I'll show you, because even if I don't, someone must enter that chamber before the ancient mechanism reawakens." Echidna's eyes sharpened. "Reawakens?" Chisha nodded gravely. "That place does not merely house something ancient. It is a cage." Subaru's stomach dropped. "And Emilia," Chisha whispered, "has fallen inside it." Subaru took a step forward, shaking with adrenaline. "Then we go. Show us the way." Chisha nodded. "It begins with opening a forbidden water channel, the Dragon Vein Gate." Emilia was waiting. And now Subaru had the first real path toward her. The moment Chisha Gold uttered the words Dragon Vein Gate, Subaru felt the air in the tunnel grow colder. Even Beatrice stiffened, her twin drills trembling ever so slightly. The name alone carried weight, the kind that suggested ancient magic, forbidden mechanisms, and consequences far beyond Priestella's recent devastation. Subaru steadied himself and asked carefully, "What is the Dragon Vein Gate?" Chisha wiped dust from his sleeve, his expression grim. "A relic of Priestella's founding. Before the city became a proud trading center, before the floodgates were regulated, the land beneath it was used as a magical research site tied to the water dragon's flow. The Dragon Vein Gate is a control point, a sealed regulator for the ancient water veins that run deep under the city." Echidna leaned forward slightly, eyes glittering. "A magical regulator tied to a dragon vein? Interesting." Chisha sighed. "It was dangerous even before the witch cult damaged the water gates. That place was never meant for general access. Only the original overseers understood its workings, and even they left warnings." I'm one of the few who studied the old blueprints. Subaru clenched his fists. Then you know how to open it? Chisha nodded reluctantly. I do, but opening it won't be easy or safe. The Dragon Vein Gate is sealed behind collapsed passages, shifted infrastructure, and water pressure that could crush a man instantly. Ferris's ears twitched anxiously. Then how in the world are we supposed to get inside without drowning? Beatrice stepped forward confidently. Betty can handle the magical barriers, I suppose. And with Chisha guiding the structural dangers, it is possible. Chisha raised an eyebrow. Possible, assuming you don't mind sudden death. Subaru snapped. I don't care about danger. Emilia is down there. His voice cracked. The exhaustion, fear, and stubborn determination all spilled together in one raw sentence. Beatrice placed a hand on his back, steadying him. Chisha studied Subaru carefully for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well, I'll guide you. But there is something you must understand. The sealed chamber beneath the first water gate does not simply contain old machinery. It houses a being that was never meant to wake. Echidna's smile sharpened. You mean the ancient creature that the water dragon researchers captured during the founding period? Oh, Chisha stiffened. You know of it? I know everything, she said innocently. Julius glanced nervously between them. What sort of creature is this? Chisha took a breath. A spirit eater, an artificial magical entity created as part of a forbidden experiment. It can drain mana from anything living or magical near it. Its presence alone is enough to incapacitate a magician within seconds. Ferris paled. And you left Emilia with that thing? Chisha shook his head quickly. It should still be sealed. The chamber's ancient barrier is nearly impossible to break without external interference. But Emilia was teleported into the chamber, bypassing the entrance entirely. If she's fortunate, the barrier is still intact on her side. Subaru's heart skipped. If she's not fortunate? Chisha closed his eyes. Then she may already be losing her mana. Subaru nearly lunged forward. Then we have to go now! Patience, Chisha said firmly. If you rush blindly, the chamber could collapse completely, killing Emilia instantly. We must approach this with precision. Subaru's stomach twisted painfully, but he forced himself to breathe. Beatrice tugged his sleeve, murmuring, We will save her. Don't forget who she has on her side, I suppose. Echidna clapped her hands lightly. Well then, let's discuss the route. Chisha unfolded the brittle map he carried, the original design of Priestella's lower systems. Much of it was water-stained or burned, but enough remained to guide them. Using lantern light, he pointed to a junction beneath the eastern water district. This is the sealing shaft. It connects to the Dragon Vein Gate through a spiraling descent. But the witch cult's sabotage caused collapses here, here, and here. He tapped 3 block corridors. Only one path remains, and it requires forcing open a submerged hatch. Ferris groaned. So we gotta dive? Not quite, Chisha corrected. The door is only partially submerged thanks to a tilted passage, but water pressure behind it is intense. Opening it without Beatrice or Echidna's help would be impossible. Beatrice nodded confidently. I can stabilize the magic pressure enough for Subaru to pass, I suppose. Ferris frowned. What about everyone else? You stay behind, Subaru said firmly. Ferris, Julius, your mana is too low. This thing eats magic. You'll collapse the moment you enter. Julius exhaled reluctantly. I expected as much. Ricardo's forces need your help topside, Subaru continued. And Ferris, the city needs healers more than I need you to babysit me. Ferris puffed their cheeks. Horrible way to put it, Subaru, but fine. Julius stepped forward and placed a hand on Subaru's shoulder. Then you must return with her. I trust that you will. Subaru nodded gratefully. Echidna chimed in. Allow me to clarify, the chamber Emilia is trapped in sits at the heart of the Dragon Vein. Mana converges there naturally. If she remains too long, her body may struggle to regulate the flow. Subaru swallowed tightly. What does that mean? Mana poisoning, Beatrice said quietly. She could collapse. Subaru felt as though ice filled his veins. Then we don't have time. Echidna nodded softly. No, you don't. With preparations made, the group emerged from the tunnel onto a damaged stone walkway overlooking the first Watergate's ruins. The setting sun cast long shadows across the wreckage. Faint mist rose from the shattered levels below, giving the entire area an eerie, breath-like motion, as though something ancient was waking beneath the earth. Chisha took a deep breath. This is where the descent begins. Subaru, Beatrice, and Echidna stepped forward together. Ferris, Julius, and Wilhelm remained behind with pained expressions. Julius bowed deeply. Bring her back safely. Garfield, limping but determined, pounded his chest. Boss, I want to go too, but Ferris says I'll pass out from that mana-eating freak, so I'll stay here. Keep the top safe. You go save her, yeah? Subaru nodded firmly. Count on it. Beatrice squeezed Subaru's sleeve. Let's go. And together Subaru, Beatrice, and Echidna began their descent into the forbidden depths beneath Priestella, toward the Dragon Vein Gate, toward the ancient, sealed chamber, toward Emilia. The descent into the depths of Priestella began with a sharp drop in temperature. As Subaru, Beatrice, Echidna, and Chisha moved deeper into the sealed passages, the warm evening air vanished, replaced by a chilling dampness that clung to their clothes and skin. The walls grew slick with condensation, the stones older and more worn than anything they had seen above ground. Even the faint torchlight seemed to dim as they ventured deeper, as though the ancient magic embedded in the stone refused to let light travel freely. Subaru felt each step echo through his bones. His heart beat too fast, driven by fear and determination. Emilia was somewhere down here alone, confused, possibly losing mana by the minute. That thought spurred him onward, even as exhaustion tugged at his limbs. Beatrice walked beside him, small hand gripping his sleeve to keep him steady. Don't rush, I suppose, she murmured. The mana flow here is unstable. If you trip or panic, you'll disrupt the barrier's rhythm. Subaru nodded shakily. I know. Biko, I can't stop thinking about her. Beatrice squeezed his arm gently. Then think while walking carefully. Ahead, Echidna hummed lightly, entirely too calm given the ominous atmosphere. These tunnels are fascinating. They've been absorbing mana for centuries. It's like walking through a living organism. Less creepy comparisons, Subaru muttered. Chisha glanced back at him with a serious expression. Focus. The Dragon Vein Gate reacts to emotional instability. Fear and panic can provoke the ancient mechanisms. If the gate senses a threat, it may close permanently. Subaru nearly stumbled. What do you mean permanently? Chisha exhaled slowly. There are stories that once the gate shuts fully, the chamber beyond is sealed into the earth. Forever. No rescue. No access. Except perhaps by destroying half the city in the process. A cold shiver ran down Subaru's spine. Beatrice stepped between them, voice sharp. He doesn't need to hear that, I suppose. He needs to understand the risk, Chisha countered. Subaru forced a long breath through his lungs. I get it. I won't panic. I can't panic. Echidna smirked. You? Not panicking? That'd be a first. He shot her a glare. You're not helping. I'm not here to help, Echidna said sweetly. I'm here to observe. Saving Emilia is merely a side benefit. Beatrice bristled. Betty will throw you into the water vein if you keep being obnoxious, in fact. Chisha murmured something that sounded suspiciously like, please do. But the moment broke when the tunnel widened into a stone chamber. The ground sloped downward sharply, leading toward a round metallic door embedded into the wall. It glowed faintly blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. Subaru froze. That's, Chisha nodded, the first threshold, the Dragon Vein Gate's outer seal. Beatrice moved closer and frowned deeply. This magic is not simple. It's dense, pressurized, as if the mana is trying to break out. Echidna tilted her head. Or trying to consume what's nearby. Subaru clenched his fists. So Emilia is beyond this? No, Chisha answered. This is only the entrance. The sealed chamber is several layers deeper, but this gate must open first. Beatrice extended her hands toward the seal and closed her eyes. Subaru watched anxiously as shimmering runes lit beneath her palms. The entire door groaned, ancient gears whining from centuries of silence. Beatrice muttered, "The pressure is too high. Subaru, stand back." Subaru refused to move. "Biko! I said stand back," she snapped, magic flaring. He stumbled backward, heart racing. Beatrice rarely raised her voice, which meant the situation was more dangerous than she let on. Echidna stepped closer beside him. "She's absorbing the surface mana distortion," Echidna murmured. "Brave of her." Subaru looked at her sharply. "Brave? What do you—" A shockwave burst from the door. Beatrice was flung backward. "Bako!" Subaru screamed. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her body trembled, her face pale, teeth clenched in pain. Don't touch the seal directly," she whispered. "It responds violently to foreign mana." Chisha approached quickly. "That gate is reacting defensively. Only someone with the original Overseer's authority, or someone who can bypass ancient recognition protocols, can open it." Subaru swallowed hard. "Can we break it?" Echidna shook her head. "It would collapse the entire tunnel. You'd kill Emilia before reaching her." "Then how?" Subaru demanded, panic creeping in. Chisha hesitated, then finally admitted, "It has to be open from the inside." Subaru stared. "But Emilia's trapped inside." Beatrice groaned as she sat up again. "That means she must find her way to the inner mechanism, or something inside must respond to her presence." Echidna smiled faintly. "Or perhaps the creature within finds her interesting enough to approach." Subaru felt sick. "Interesting? You mean dangerous?" Echidna didn't deny it. Before Subaru could panic, Chisha stepped toward the door and examined its runes closely. "Wait, the pressure is fluctuating." Beatrice wiped sweat from her brow. "Meaning?" Chisha's eyes widened. "Someone is interacting with the inner mechanism." Subaru's heart stopped. "Emilia," he whispered. Beatrice placed her hand on Subaru's shoulder. "She's alive, I suppose." For the first time since the gate stood before them, Subaru felt hope flicker inside his chest. But then a deep rumble shook the chamber. The metal seal pulsed violently. The stone walls groaned. Cracks appeared across the floor. Echidna stepped back with surprising urgency. "Something is happening inside. A reaction. An awakening." Chisha's face went pale. "No, the creature inside, the Spirit Eater. It must sense Emilia. It's responding to her magic." Subaru turned white. "What does that mean?" Beatrice grabbed his shirt, fear in her eyes. "If the creature absorbs too much mana, it will break free." Subaru staggered. "Break free? As in, into the city?" Chisha nodded grimly. "If that happens, Priestella will fall." The gate trembled again, mana bursting through gaps like steam. Subaru clenched his jaw. "Then we break through," he said hoarsely. "No," Chisha said quickly. "If you hit the gate, the entire passage will collapse." "Then what do we do?" Subaru shouted. Beatrice turned to him. Her expression was steady, but sad. "We trust her." Subaru froze. Beatrice continued softly. "Emilia is strong. She will find a way to open it from her side. We must give her that time." Another tremor shook the chamber. The mana grew thicker, swirling like a storm trapped behind steel. Subaru's voice cracked. "Emilia, hang on! I'm right here!" A final pulse of light burst from the gate, and then it began to open. Just a crack, but enough. Enough to feel a breath of cold air spill out. Enough to know that Emilia was alive. And something else was with her. The crack in the Dragonbane gate widened slowly, groaning like a wounded creature. Cold, dense air seeped through the opening. Not ordinary air, but something saturated with ancient mana and oppressive weight. Subaru instinctively stepped forward, but Beatrice grabbed his arm tightly, shaking her head. "Slowly, I suppose," she hissed. "We have no idea what will spill out." Chisha also stepped back, eyes wide with apprehension. "The pressure's unstable. If the gate opens too quickly, the entire corridor will rupture." Echidna, unbothered, observed the trembling metal with fascination. Amazing! This seal has held for hundreds of years. Yet Emilia Sama's mana alone was enough to trigger the internal mechanism. She really is special. Subaru's throat tightened. Then she really is inside? Beatrice squeezed his arm, her expression softening. Of course she is, in fact. You'd feel it too if you calmed your noisy heart. Subaru placed a hand over his chest, forcing himself to breathe. Beneath the swirl of panic, fear, and desperation, he felt something faint, a warmth, a presence he knew better than any spell or scent. Emilia, he whispered. But that warmth flickered unstable, strained. Something tugged at it, like invisible threads pulling in every direction. Subaru's pulse quickened. Something's wrong, he said sharply. She's in danger. Before anyone could respond, the gate shuddered again, then burst open a full meter, slamming into the stone wall with a deafening clang. A surge of mana blasted outward, slamming Subaru, Beatrice, and Chisha backward. Only Echidna stood calmly, surrounded by a swirling barrier of spirit particles that she summoned effortlessly. Careful now, she warned, voice sweet. The Ancient One stirs. Subaru hit the ground hard and scrambled to his feet, eyes widening as a strange fog poured into the corridor. It wasn't poisonous like the black serpent's miasma. It wasn't magical like Capella's curse. It was hungry, Beatrice gasped. It's draining mana! Subaru! Subaru staggered, his limbs suddenly heavy as his strength seeped away. Beatrice latched onto him, pouring her own magic outward to form a weak protective bubble. Chisha stumbled back in fear. The Spirit Eater! It's awake! Echidna smiled thinly. Yes, and your beloved Emilia-sama seems to have triggered it. Fascinating. Subaru spun toward her. Where is she? Instead of answering, Echidna pointed into the slowly clearing mist. Subaru followed her gesture, and his entire world narrowed to a single moment. There a faint silhouette stood just inside the gate, knees trembling, silver hair cascading down her shoulders, her breath fogging the air before her. Emilia! Her eyes lifted at the sound of his voice. Those familiar violet eyes shimmered with shock, relief, and exhaustion. Sub-Aru? Her voice was small, cracked, barely audible. He surged forward instinctively, but Beatrice held him back with surprising force. Don't move, she snapped. Subaru froze mid-step. Biko! What? That's Emilia. Look behind her, Beatrice shouted. Subaru's breath caught as he peered into the dim chamber beyond. Behind Emilia, something crawled. A mass of shifting darkness, half slime, half spirit, a flowing body without bones or boundaries. Long tendrils of mana extended from its core, latching onto walls, glowing faintly as it fed on whatever magical residue it touched. Its eyes, if they could be called that, were empty, hollow pits of swirling mist. It moved with no sound, no emotion, only hunger. Beatrice whispered, Spirit Eater. It's active. The creature hovered inches behind Emilia, tendrils brushing her hair like cold fingers. She shivered violently, clutching her arms. Subaru felt his heart plummet. She's losing mana. Fast. Emilia's knees buckled. She caught herself against the wall, but the strain was visible in her trembling arms. I tried to hold the barrier, she whispered weakly, but it moved. When I got close, Beatrice's voice shook faintly. We were too slow, I suppose. No, Echidna murmured with interest. This is interesting. The creature is observing her, but not consuming her fully. It's reacting to the divine protection of spirits, or perhaps her lineage. Subaru's head snapped toward her. Do something! Echidna raised a brow. I can't interfere with an ancient mechanism like this. But you might. Suddenly the Spirit Eater lifted its head, if such a thing could be said to have a head, and turned towards Subaru, a tendril extended, sensing his mana through the air. Subaru staggered backward. It is coming this way! Beatrice flared her magic, shouting, Stay behind Betty, I suppose. The tendril lashed forward. Beatrice countered with a blast of mana, but the creature absorbed it instantly, growing larger. Chisha cursed. "We cannot fight it. That thing consumes mana. Magic won't work." Subaru looked desperately between Emilia, who was barely standing, and the creature which continued creeping closer. Then Echidna's voice whispered in his ear, "You can do it, Subaru, because you're the only one here with no mana to lose." Subaru blinked. "No mana?" Beatrice gasped. "Subaru, your gate, it's damaged. You can't use magic. Your mana pool is practically non-existent." Echidna smiled, "Which means the Spirit Eater cannot feed on you." Subaru's heart pounded. He felt fear, terror, but also resolve. Emilia was swaying on her feet. Another moment, and she'd collapse entirely. Subaru stepped forward. Beatrice grabbed him. "Subaru, no! You don't know what it will do." He smiled sadly at her. "Biko, if it's me or Emilia, you already know the answer." Beatrice froze, eyes wide with pain. Subaru stepped through the weakening fog. "Hey!" he shouted at the creature, voice cracking but strong. "Get away from her! Come after me instead!" The Spirit Eater turned fully toward him. Emilia's eyes widened in horror. "Subaru, don't!" He smiled at her. "I'm here, Emilia. You're not alone anymore." The tendrils lunged straight toward him, and Subaru braced himself, because if this creature wanted mana, it would starve on him. But if it wanted his life, he'd take that risk to reach her. The creature's tendrils sliced through the air like serpentine shadows, converging on Subaru with terrifying speed. For an instant, every muscle in his body screamed to run, to hide, to do anything but stand still before the consuming mass of ancient hunger. But he held his ground, fists clenched, breath trembling. This thing fed on mana, devoured magic, drained strength from anything with spiritual energy. Subaru had none. His body was empty of mana, useless in combat, vulnerable to everything except this one, singular weakness. And that made him the only shield between Emilia and the creature. "Come on!" he shouted hoarsely as the tendrils reached him. "I'm right here! Take me!" The impact never came. The tendrils brushed Subaru's skin, and then, confused, swirled around him like smoke searching for a scent. The creature pulsed, an eerie hollow vibration. Sensing nothing, it recoiled, tendrils writhing as though struck with disorientation. Subaru felt a coldness against his skin, like fog passing through him, but nothing was taken. No mana, no energy. The creature didn't know what to do with him. "Subaru, it's not attacking?" Beatrice whispered, awe mixed with fear. Chisha's eyes widened. "It's rejecting him. He has no mana to consume." Echidna smirked, pleased with herself. "I did say he was the perfect bait." "Not helping," Subaru hissed through clenched teeth, never taking his eyes off the massive darkness. The creature shifted its gaze, if the swirling emptiness could be called such, between Subaru and Emilia. It hesitated, as though torn between its instinctual hunger and its inability to process Subaru's unnatural emptiness. Emilia, still slumped against the wall, shivered violently. The creature had taken enough of her mana that she could barely stand. Subaru knew she had only minutes before she collapsed completely. He took another step forward. The creature retreated, tendrils coiling back in agitation. Subaru felt a spark of hope. "It's afraid of you, Natsuki Subaru," Julius whispered from behind the gate's threshold. "You're a void to it." Subaru didn't know whether to laugh or cry. About time my terrible magic affinity became useful for something. Another tendril flicked toward Emilia, drawn to her glowing mana signature. Subaru's blood boiled at the sight. "No, you don't!" he roared, lunging between them and sweeping his arms wide. The creature froze. Then all at once it latched on to Subaru. Not to drain mana, but to crush him. The shadowy mass slammed into his torso, wrapping around his ribs, squeezing with suffocating force. Subaru choked, knees buckling, breath ripped from his lungs. It didn't want his mana, but it still wanted to eliminate the obstacle in front of its prey. "Subaru!" Emilia screamed, voice cracking as she tried to crawl toward him. Beatrice surged forward, magic blazing around her hands. Let him go, I suppose. Stop, Echidna snapped, pulling Beatrice's wrist. You'll only feed it and make it stronger. Beatrice froze in horror. She was helpless, her infinite mana a death sentence if she acted. Subaru gasped as the pressure increased. Pain lanced through him like hot knives. Spots danced in his vision, but he forced his arms upward, pushing against the crushing tendrils. Is that all you've got? He spat through clenched teeth. The Spirit Eater pulsed, tightening again. Subaru cried out. And then, Subaru! Emilia's voice rang through the chamber like sunlight piercing storm clouds. The creature hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Because Emilia pushed herself up, shakily placing a protective hand toward Subaru, her body trembling as she forced her remaining mana into a thin, magical shield. Don't touch him! The Spirit Eater recoiled sharply, not from her spell, which was pitifully weak, but from the intent behind it. Her mana flickered like a dying flame, but it was still powerful enough to draw its attention back to her. No, 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 don't you dare, Subaru rasped, but Emilia smiled weakly at him. Subaru, you came for me. He felt something break inside him. Of course I did. I'll always come for you. The creature lunged toward Emilia again. Subaru threw himself in front of her, but Beatrice moved faster. She leapt between them, slamming her palms onto the ground. Then Betty won't let you take him or her! A sudden pulse of spiraling violet energy burst outward, not magic, but something deeper. Subaru felt it instantly. Their contract, the bond between him and Beatrice, a thread of shared life that could not be severed. Beatrice activated the connection, making Subaru's internal emptiness flare with stabilizing force. Chisha gasped. She's invoking the tether. Echidna's eyes widened. She's amplifying Subaru's mana void, forcing it outward. The air warped. The creature's tendrils lashed against the expanding void and disintegrated. The creature recoiled like a beast scalded by boiling water. Its tendrils shriveled as they touched Subaru's spiritually magnified emptiness. The mana void, enhanced by Beatrice's contract, became a weapon and natural poison to a mana-consuming monster. Subaru staggered, feeling the pressure around him dissolve. The creature reformed, trembling violently, its mass flickering. It's weakening, Beatrice breathed, sweat dripping down her brow. Keep standing, Subaru. Don't move from that spot, I suppose. Subaru planted his feet firmly. I'm not going anywhere. The Spirit Eater recoiled again, shrinking. For the first time, it emitted a sound, a distorted screech, like metal grinding underwater. It writhed, shrinking further away from Emilia, and collapsing into the far corner of the chamber, where it pulsed weakly, unable to approach. It's retreating, Chisha whispered, stunned. Echidna smirked. Because he's toxic to it. How poetic. Emilia, tears streaming down her pale cheeks, reached for Subaru weakly. You saved me. Subaru caught her as she fell, pulling her into his arms. You were the one who held the barrier. You protected yourself until we got here. Her eyelids fluttered. I knew. You'd come. He hugged her tighter. Always. Beatrice let out a shaky sigh of relief. About time, I suppose. She nearly gave Betty a heart attack. Subaru whispered Emilia's name again. She smiled, and then her body went limp in his arms. Emilia! The chamber echoed with Subaru's cry as Emilia finally succumbed to exhaustion and mana loss. Emilia collapsed into Subaru's arms, her body frighteningly light, as though the Spirit Eater had hollowed her out. Subaru felt her shallow breaths against his chest, soft, unsteady, barely there. Panic surged up his throat like fire, and his fingers trembled while clutching her shoulders. Emilia! Emilia, stay with me, please! Subaru whispered desperately, his voice shaking. Her eyelids fluttered faintly but did not open. Her mana had reached its limit. Even breathing seemed like a battle for her exhausted spirit. Beatrice rushed forward, kneeling beside Subaru, placing both hands over Emilia's forehead and chest. Her expression tightened into one of cold concentration. She's stable for now, but she's dangerously drained, I suppose. Betty can slow the mana loss but not restore it. Not here. Subaru swallowed hard. Then we take her back. Now, we have to leave this place. Chisha stepped closer, though he kept a wary distance from the shadowy monster curled in at the far corner of the sealed chamber. We cannot leave yet. The creature will follow if we open the exit fully while it still has mobility. And if it escapes into the city, Subaru finished his thought grimly. Priestella will face a disaster worse than the witch cult. The chamber trembled faintly, just enough to suggest the creature was disturbed but not yet defeated. It pulsed weakly, tendrils twitching, still reacting to the presence of their mana. Every movement it made left a residue of chilling dread. Echidna clasped her hands together with a knowing expression. The Spirit Eater is wounded, but not dead. It will recover if left alone. And if it recovers fully, she smiled as though savoring the tension. Betty's trick won't work a second time. Beatrice glared at her. Betty didn't trick anything. It was our contract, in fact. Yes, Echidna waved dismissively. But unless you find a way to restrain the creature permanently, it will hunt you, or worse, escape. Subaru stared at the pulsing mass. Then we finish it. Beatrice shook her head immediately. Subaru, you can't. You're immune to its mana drain, but not to physical attacks. If it lashes out, Subaru interrupted, determination burning through the fear swallowing him earlier. I won't let it touch Emilia again, and I won't let it threaten the city. Echidna approached the creature's perimeter calmly, stepping just close enough that her tea-scented presence bristled against the residual mana fog. Killing it is difficult, but sealing it is not impossible. Chisha stared at her incredulously. You know how to reseal an ancient experiment, but didn't say anything earlier? Echidna's grin widened. You didn't ask. Beatrice nearly exploded. Stop being difficult, I suppose. Tell us how. Echidna turned towards Subaru. The Spirit Eater was originally bound by a mechanism connected to the dragon vein. To restrain it again, someone must occupy the center of the mana flow, the heart of the chamber, and suppress the creature's access to the vein. Subaru blinked. Occupy the center? Like hold a position? Echidna nodded. Precisely. Beatrice's eyes widened in alarm. Absolutely not, Subaru. You can't expose yourself to the vein's pressure without mana. It will crush you, in fact. Chisha shook his head. And the chamber will resonate violently if a non-mage stands in the core. It could collapse. Subaru cut through their voices. We don't have time. Emilia's fading. The creature is recovering. And the city needs this thing sealed. His arms tightened around Emilia's limp form. Her head rested against his shoulder, silver hair cascading down like moonlight. She looked peaceful, but dangerously fragile. I'm the only one who can do this, Subaru said quietly. Echidna's smile softened with something almost like approval. Yes, because you are a void in a world of mana, a gap in the weave that the creature cannot consume. The perfect counter. Subaru set Emilia gently in Beatrice's lap. Take care of her. I'll finish this quickly. Subaru! Beatrice grabbed him urgently, eyes glossy with emotion. Don't act like you can just throw yourself into danger whenever you want, I suppose. He gave her a tired but warm smile. I'm not throwing myself away. I'm doing what only I can do. Beatrice trembled, lips quivering, but she released his sleeve slowly. Subaru stepped forward. The creature reacted instantly, thrashing in agitation. Its tendrils struck the ground, leaving cracks in the stone. But Subaru felt nothing but a chilling gust as he advanced toward the chamber's glowing center, where faint blue runes pulsed in rhythm with the water veins beneath the city. The closer he got, the heavier the air felt. His lungs strained, his legs shook. The pressure was like gravity amplified tenfold. It pushed against him brutally, yet he kept moving, inch by inch. You can do it, Subaru, Julius called from behind the gate, though distant. Ferris shouted encouragement. Chisha quietly murmured a prayer he didn't believe in. Echidna stared with unblinking fascination. "But Beatrice, Subaru," she whispered, clutching Emilia tightly. "Don't make Betty lose you too." He heard her and kept walking, because Emilia needed him. When Subaru reached the chamber's heart, the creature lunged. A mass of shadows and tendrils surged toward him with a guttural, screeching roar. "Hey!" he shouted, throwing his arms wide. "Look at me!" The spirit eater collided with him and recoiled violently. His mana void, amplified by proximity to the dragon vein, expanded outward like a shockwave. The creature convulsed, twisting and shriveling as its tendrils disintegrated on contact with Subaru's presence. Beatrice gasped. "It's working! It's working, I suppose." Echidna smirked. "Now the seal." She raised her hand, channeling Anastasia's contracted spirit energy into the ancient runes beneath the chamber. "Seal it, Natsuki Subaru," she whispered. Subaru slammed his hand onto the core glyph, and the entire chamber blazed with light. Tendrils shrieked. Mana pulsed wildly. Stone cracked and trembled. The creature was pulled downward, sucked back toward the dragon vein's core, as Subaru's void forced it into submission. "Go back!" he screamed through the blinding pressure. "Go back where you belong!" With a final, echoing shriek, the spirit eater vanished into the depths. The chamber fell still. The seal glowed gently again. Subaru collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. And behind him, Emilia drew a weak, steady inhale. She was safe. At last. The chamber fell silent in the wake of the sealing ritual. Not the eerie, suffocating silence from before, but a quiet that felt earned, peaceful, like the moment after a storm when the world remembers how to breathe. Subaru remained kneeling at the center of the dragon vein's core, shoulders rising and falling with ragged breaths. His arms shook, his palms stung, and every muscle in his body screamed at him to collapse. But he forced himself to look over his shoulder, toward Emilia. Her chest rose and fell, slowly but steadily. Color was returning to her cheeks, faint as dawn but undeniable. Her silver hair lay peacefully across Beatrice's lap. She looked as though she were simply sleeping, not standing moments ago in the jaws of something ancient and hungry. Beatrice stroked Emilia's forehead gently, tears glimmering, but refusing to fall. "She's stabilizing," she said softly, as though speaking too loudly would disturb the fragile balance. "Her body's starting to produce mana again. Betty will protect her until she wakes." Subaru felt his knees give out fully, and he sank to the floor, breathing hard. Relief washed over him in waves, so strong that tears pricked the corners of his eyes unbidden. Not from exhaustion, not from pain, but from the sheer flood of emotion that threatened to burst out of him. She was alive. He had reached her. They had reached her. Echidna approached with elegant steps, brushing off dust as though emerging from an ancient sealing ritual were no more troublesome than leaving a formal tea party. "Well," she said, placing her hands on her hips with a satisfied smile, "that was quite a performance. Not many can claim they resealed an ancient spirit eater with nothing but their existence." Subaru glared weakly. "Can you ever just say something nice?" She tapped her chin. "I did. You're unusual, fascinating, and surprisingly useful." "Isn't that praise?" Subaru groaned. "Somehow, when you say it, it feels like an insult wrapped in a compliment." Beatrice marched over and shoved Echidna's shoulder. "Stop bothering Subaru, I suppose. He nearly died because you let him." Echidna blinked innocently. "I merely guided the optimal path." "Betty will throw you into the mana well," Beatrice hissed. Ah, terrifying. Chisha, who had been silently catching his breath against the far wall, finally pushed himself upright. Sweat plastered his hair to his forehead, and his normally sharp expression was softened by exhaustion. "We should leave," he said. "The chamber will remain stable for a few hours, but lingering in a place like this is not wise." Subaru stood slowly, legs wobbling beneath him. Beatrice ran back to support Emilia, and Echidna illuminated their path with faint glowing spirit lights. As they exited through the Dragon Vein Gate, Subaru took one final look at the sealed chamber behind them. The runes glowed faintly, calmly, silent once again. But the silence this time was benevolent, not hungry. The ascent back through the tunnels was slow. Subaru carried Emilia carefully in his arms, adjusting his grip every few steps to ensure she remained supported. Her forehead rested lightly against his collarbone. Her breath warmed his skin. With each exhale she made, Subaru's heart tightened in gratitude. "She'll be fine," Beatrice murmured, walking beside him. "I know," Subaru said softly, "but I need to feel her breathing. I need to know she's here." Beatrice didn't tease him for once. Instead, she reached out and touched Emilia's hand gently. "She'll scold you for worrying so much when she wakes, I suppose." "I hope she does," Subaru whispered. Chisha guided them through the safer passages, explaining ancient mechanisms and mana flow patterns in a tired monotone. Echidna hummed occasionally, offering commentary no one wanted. But despite the cold, the dust, and the lingering dread, Subaru felt lighter than he had in days. Emilia was with him. There was nothing heavier, nothing more frightening than losing sight of the one he swore to protect, and nothing more relieving than holding her again. When they finally emerged from the underground tunnels into the faint moonlight of Priestella's ruined streets, a wave of voices rose in alarm and relief. "Subaru! Emilia-sama!" Garfield came sprinting first, limping heavily but fast as ever. Julius followed close behind, with Ferris practically shoving people aside to reach them. Wilhelm and Ricardo ushered back panicked citizens. Garfield skidded to a halt, eyes wide. Boss, you got her. You actually..." Subaru nodded, unable to form a coherent sentence as emotion swelled in his throat. Ferris immediately dropped to their knees beside Emilia, hands glowing softly as they checked her vitals. Their ears perked in surprise. "Her mana's stabilizing fast. She's tougher than she looks." Julius placed a hand over his chest and bowed. "I am relieved beyond words." Ricardo shouted for blankets and hot water. Wilhelm's tired gaze softened when he saw the girl's peaceful expression. Beatrice stood proudly, arms crossed, chin lifted. "Of course she is safe. Betty was involved after all." Echidna rolled her eyes. Yes, all hail the great Beatrice. "Betty will fight you," she hissed. Subaru laughed weakly as the tension broke around them. His knees finally buckled, and Garfield caught him before he fell. "Easy, boss. You look like a stiff breeze that'd knock you out." "Funny," Subaru muttered tiredly, "because that's exactly how I feel." They carried him and Emilia to a sheltered recovery station. Warm blankets wrapped around their shoulders. A gentle fire crackled nearby as Ferris worked on replenishing Emilia's mana. Beatrice kept a hand on Subaru's arm the whole time, as though afraid he'd vanish if she let go. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Subaru let himself rest, let himself breathe, let himself believe she's okay. Hours passed, the fire dimmed. Then, a soft voice whispered beside him. "Subaru." His eyes snapped open. Emilia was awake. She blinked up at him, confused, then smiled. A small, tired smile, but one filled with warmth. "You came for me," she said softly. He choked on a breath. "Of course I did. I'll always come for you." She reached up, fingertips brushing his cheek. "Then I'm not afraid," she whispered. Subaru took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We're safe now, together." Her eyelids fluttered closed again, but this time she slept peacefully, leaning against him with complete trust. Subaru felt tears slip down his cheeks. Partly exhaustion, partly relief, partly love. Emilia was safe. The Spirit Eater was sealed. Priestella had survived another nightmare. And though battles remained in the future, tonight, Subaru finally allowed himself to rest with Emilia sleeping safely at his side.